This episode is brought to you by Bigfoot Fun Park in Branson, Missouri, where you'll have a great time playing. Bigfoot Mini Golf, you'll enjoy that Bigfoot arcade, and there are 3 Bigfoot escape rooms. See if you can find your way out. It's on West 76 Country Boulevard in Branson, Missouri, and when you go there, tell them that the Chronicles sent you.
Hello, and welcome to the Ozarkian Folk Chronicles, your place for all things Ozarks, the profane, the profound, the preposterous, and the impressive. And today, Hayden, we are down here in West Plains.
West Plains, sometimes known as West Table.
West Table, yeah.
Yep, it's gotten that name before, but Curtis, this is, it's truly special because we are at the Ozarks Heritage Research Center, and we are with none other than
Dr. Jason McCollom.
Yeah.
Hi. Hey, Curtis, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us so much, Jason. We appreciate your time.
Yes, absolutely. I'll reiterate what Hayden was saying. This falls right in line with kind of the mission of the Ozarkian Folk Chronicles is preservation of this region that we love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I want to start out. Well, I'm really excited to learn about what y'all are doing here at the West Plains campus.
Yeah.
So, Jason, maybe a place to begin, too. Yeah, we're so excited about your efforts here, but would you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your growing interest in the Ozarks over time?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jason McCollom. I've been teaching history here at Missouri State University West Plains for 10 years. I'm from Texas, but I moved to the Ozarks to Fayetteville, Arkansas to go to graduate school, and really I'd never thought about the Ozarks, didn't even know it really existed. And I arrived in Fayetteville, just blown away by the beauty of it, and everyone was so friendly. I thought people were friendly in Texas, but wow, I come to the Ozarks and they're really friendly. Went on the job market in 2015, and the only place that I got an interview with was MSU West Plains, and luckily I got the job, and so I've been in the Ozarks since about 2007.
That's wonderful. If you wouldn't mind, too, just telling us a little bit, I know this is sort of preparatory to talking about the center, but about the Ozark Symposium, because Curtis, you and I have both had a chance to attend that, so if you would just tell us a little bit about that event, please.
Sure, the Ozark Symposium, it's a conference, so not specifically academic, because it's open to anyone who has anything interesting to say or any interesting research or insights into the Ozarks. It's held every September here on the MSU West Plains campus. And each year, it's been going on for almost 20 years, and I'm the coordinator. And it's a 2-day conference, and if you've got something interesting to say about the Ozarks, whether that's history, music, geography, whatever angle you want to take, folklore, we want you here.
Yeah, Jason, I think that's the first place that you and I met. And
it was.
It is a fantastic conference. Like you say, it's got a little bit of everything, but it's all about the Ozarks, and it's well attended. And the neat thing about West Plains, it truly is, you might say, in the heart of the Ozarks. At least geographically, it's centered right in the middle.
Yeah.
So you're pulling both visitors or attendees and presenters from all regions of the Ozarks, both sides of the state line too.
Yeah.
So, one other event that occurs that I ran into you recently when we were attending, tell our listeners about the festival that occurs in West Plains that has to do with Ozarks Heritage, because that's amazing too.
Yeah, so we have I guess it's 30 plus years now. It was called the Old Time Heritage Music Festival. Now it's been changed to the Ozarks Heritage Festival, but really the centerpiece is old-time music and new music based in the Ozarks. But there's like a pie contest, there's sorghum making, workshops, and just all sorts of elements that harken back to the Ozarks tradition and heritage. And that's a 2-day festival every October.
Yeah, speaking of my most recent visit to that, what sticks out in my mind is the food's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
You've got lots of different food to choose from. The music is amazing.
Yes.
The living history exhibits.
That I forgot to mention.
That was really cool. To see how people were just making a living, whether it be creating lye soap or all these different things from the 1800s. And then, gosh, I don't know how you did it, but you guys got Big Smith to play like a big headliner in the auditorium that evening. So it is, if you're able to make it to West Plains, you don't want to miss that event. Right. That's wonderful too.
Yeah, and one more thing about the Heritage Festival, there's also a storytelling element. So we get old timers telling stories and professional storytellers, and so it's just really great. Using.
It's right up our alley.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah, I could see you start smile when I mentioned it. So yeah, thanks for reminding me to talk about that. But we would love anyone to come to West Plains and check out the Heritage Festival.
Well, I got one more thing.
Okay.
We're going to get to the center, I promise. But you had also mentioned something about a monthly presentation that you host. Mm-hmm. Would you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, as part of the OHRC, the Ozarks Heritage Research Center, in addition to being an archive, every month, 12 times a year, we put on programming right here in the center. It's just a variety of presentations as long as it's focused on the Ozarks. So we've had musicians. Just this month, we had our director of music here at the college talking about Christmas music in the Ozarks. We've had topics like slavery in the Ozarks. We've had Brooks Blevins talking about mythical monsters in the Ozarks. So it's just one of these great things that you can find something you're interested in because there's such a variety. But every month we put those on, and we've got 2026 all booked up. A great list. You can go to the OHRC website and see what's upcoming.
Oh, that's great.
Well, again, before we move on to the research center, if folks are traveling from the area, one of the things that I find fascinating about West Plains, if they're coming here to see the center, the Harlan Museum. Now, do you work with them, or is that is that a completely separate entity? But I've been there before in the past, and that's a really neat museum of just kind of West Plains history.
Yeah, and so we're not officially connected, but of course we're both into preservation and Ozarks history, so there has been collaboration. But one amazing thing about the Harlan Museum, they have numerous original Broadfoots.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, which just mesmerizing.
Yes. So, for our listeners, L.L. Broadfoot was an interesting individual. This was during the Depression era, or if I remember right.
I think so.
But he was from kind of the Shannon County, southeastern Missouri Ozarks, and he would travel around and sketch the people of the hills, draw them, portraiture, and just really amazing, and then have a little blurb or a story about them. And
in the vernacular, in their sort of speech
their
ways,
dialect and so forth. Really neat book. I hope I'm not incorrect in saying this, but I do believe that I did get a reprint copy of that amazing book from the Harlan Museum.
Yeah.
So, just a real treasure, something really uniquely Ozarkian is that L.L. Broadfoot book. I think it's Pioneers of the Ozarks, but I think that's close.
Yeah, I've got a copy in my office somewhere, but that sounds right. Yeah.
Well, all of the activities and the things that you host here are so impressive, but why don't we turn to the center now, Jason? If you would just tell us about its inception, where you are, and of course we'll also talk about your vision of what it will become.
Sure. So the idea to have a research center, an archive, a cultural center here on the campus of MSU West Plains predated me by a decade or two. So English faculty here, Frank Priest and others, Lee Adams, back in the late 90s, went to administration with this idea of creating some sort of archive or heritage center. Administration never got on board, but the idea was always percolating. Well, come 2020, 2021, we got new administrators, a new chancellor who appreciated the humanities and said, I'm all for it. How do we make this happen? So we managed to sort of rearrange stuff here in Garnett Library, which is where the OHRC is held, carved out a space. We already had a lot of not a lot, but a decent amount of Ozark historical and cultural materials that sort of form the nucleus of a collection. And then once the word got out, before our grand opening, as we're still planning, people just started coming out of the woodwork with, here's some materials that my mom had saved from 1920. I want these things preserved. I want them protected. I want other people to see them. So before we had the space open, my office was the place where everyone dropped off their materials, and it was crammed full of stuff. I mean, original, priceless, old historical documents just like shoved under my table. But once we sort of got a space in Garnett Library, we started professionally cataloging and archiving these things. And again, once the word got out, more and more Ozark historical materials came in, and then we really started to come into our own and find our own identity and gain that confidence to talk about what we're doing and show the progress. So we've been, our grand opening was 2023, but in the years leading up to that, we were working behind the scenes. So we're still a young blood here at the OHRC, but good things are ahead. We're growing.
Yeah,
It's great.
Welcome to the Ozarks Heritage Research Center here at MSU West Plains and Garnett Library. Come on in.
There are.
Yeah, so Dr. Ed McKinney, he used to teach history before I was hired. He retired and I got hired to take his position. He was a master instrument maker. So these are some of his instruments. His daughter is Rebecca McKinney, who's director of the library, who couldn't join us. These are very Ozark music here. I think some of those CDs are Ed McKinney's, his bluegrass band. So this is where the actual archive is. We have a wide variety of Ozark's books.
I love those books.
Some are one of a kind. Others are, like Brooks Blevins' History of the Ozarks, of course.
The standard.
The standard.
Got to have that, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then our actual archive, or sort of our special collections area, is right back here.
Oh, wow.
And I can talk all about these during the podcast. And keep in mind, we've only been in operation 3 or 4 years, so this is just a start.
Right.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear about how you collected those. That's great. Yeah, we were so impressed by the collections that we saw and the rare books. And I mean, you've really begun assembling terrific archives.
Yeah, Jason, I think that it is a real testament to the importance of the idea of the center. There was maybe you didn't know that there was actually a need, but once the center was created and made available, and you talk about these people bringing these, I mean, they're treasures, right? I mean, they're a record of our region's history.
Absolutely.
That is extremely fragile. So many times you hear these stories about estate sales or things going to people that don't know what they are.
Yes.
They turn, at best they turn up in an antique store. At worst, they end up in the dumpster.
Right.
So it's just wonderful that you all have created this repository for these local treasures, that family heirlooms, things that are important to not only people that are gone,
Right.
but future generations that want to know where they came from.
Yeah, and some other materials also came from in-house here at the college at MSU West Plains. So for example, one of my favorite parts that I've actually used extensively in doing local and county research, a former history professor from the 70s and 80s, Carol Sylvie, who's been a big supporter of what we do, she had in her class, when she taught here, she had her students do oral interviews of local people, and these were all put on CDs, and they were just stored in a filing cabinet. Well, once OHRC opened, these were sort of rediscovered, and now they have a home. Other people can listen to them. There's a great bunch of interviews with African American residents of Howe County that I've used extensively to research and tell the story of how West Plains and Howe County's African American history. So even these gems that had been here for by that point 40 years were sort of never had a place, but once OHRC opened, they found their home.
Jason, that's so interesting that you mentioned the history of African Americans here locally, because when you read research, I think of Kimberly Harper's White Man's Heaven. It's so tragic so often. It's a brutal experience. What have you discovered in researching African American history here in Howell County?
Yeah, so the unique thing about the history of African Americans in West Plains, at the same time you had the Easter lynchings in Springfield, you had the lynchings in Harrison, and in West Plains, race relations were relatively placid. And I make the argument, and this is kind of related to Kimberly Harper's argument, she said those African Americans that were lynched in Springfield and Harrison, these were African Americans unknown to the population, that had sort of come transient laborers who didn't have any white people to vouch for them, who were sort of in economic competition with local whites. In West Plains, though, a very small African American population, understand, so there was no threat in terms of numbers, but a lot of these African American families were integrated into the white economy. They worked as domestic servants, they worked as drivers for prominent white families. And so African Americans in West Plains, they were a known entity. They did not represent a threat. And so there was no large-scale violence in West Plains. Now that is to say, African Americans in West Plains were still second-class citizens in the age of Jim Crow. Everything was segregated. There was certainly a paternalistic outlook on the side of whites looking at the black population. But race relations were probably as good as you would find anywhere in the Ozarks during the late 19th and early 20th century.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so I think one really important thing about the Research Center is like you mentioned with the CDs and the audio recordings, is accessibility. And that's one thing that, I'm kind of a local history nerd, and things are greatly improving as we move forward in time with accessibility. We got so many more things are available on the internet and so forth, and digitization. But even when I talk about accessibility, I'm referring to, there's so many places that these archives are just unknown. Yeah. And so, it sounds to me like y'all are making a real proactive effort to let the community and others know that, hey, we've got this resource available, come check it out. And now that, for instance, going back to the audio files, they've been, kind of forgotten for 40 years, but now people know. So,
yeah, and it's a tightrope we have to walk, because we, like any other archives, we've digitized a lot of these oral interviews, we've scanned a lot of these one-of-a-kind priceless historical documents, but you don't want to scan everything you have. You don't want to digitize everything you have, because then people won't visit the center, right? So you need to entice them, accessibility, but also say, hey, we've got tons more stuff, but you're going to have to come to West Plains to check it out.
Yes, and that's I do like that approach, and because there is something about being there in person to getting the full
holding
the tangibleness of it is a whole other effect.
Sure, it's the difference between reading a book on a Kindle and having the book in your hand. Yeah. So the center's been in place for 3 years, did you say?
Yeah.
3 or 4, something. So how has West Plains received it? How has the public received it? And you have folks coming in and researching things in the archives.
So I wish Rebecca McKinney was here, who's director of the library, who keeps meticulous records of who's using it. But let me answer that in one way. So our monthly programming brings in significant numbers, and that's the in that we get to draw people in. So as they come to listen to a talk or something Ozark-based, I'm always there before the talk saying, hey, this is part of the OHRC, here's what we do, here's what an archive is, come visit us. This programming is just our sort of public-facing element. But yeah, slowly people are coming in. We want to get students involved. We have this great recording studio that we would like students to get involved doing oral interviews or maybe making a podcast. So the possibilities are out there, and yeah, interest is, as we get our name out there, interest is growing.
That's so encouraging to hear that, Jason. I mean, Hayden and I visit about this quite frequently, and, podcasts are obviously a wonderful platform for information, entertainment, and so forth. But we give ourselves a reality check every once in a while. Our subject matter is very niche.
Sure.
Right. So it's so encouraging, not just for that we have listenership, but the big picture is I'm excited that people are interested in the Ozarks and interested in Ozarks heritage and culture.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, it is a vanishing thing to a degree with urbanization and globalization and progress and all of those things that kind of erode away of that identity. I'm so thankful to hear that you have good attendance at your monthly events. People have an interest in it.
People are interested. I think, like you said, they crave sort of the uniqueness and the originality, the regionalism, the localism that you can't get in the age of standardization and globalization and cookie cutter, stuff. Right.
Yeah. So, Jason, it's so interesting when you talk about history, and all of us just value the history. It's easy to care about the environment. We recognize that that's, if nothing else, it's connected to our physical health. But could you help explain why we should care about our history, about our folklore, about the archives, about the center?
Yeah, none of us live in a vacuum. We don't just exist in the present. I think going to an archive, really delving into the past, it makes you realize, okay, these are human beings just like me. There's no difference between me and this person that lived in 1850 here in southern Missouri. But what's exciting is that same human being that has the same feelings as you, goes through the same emotions, the same desires, the same fears, is in a completely different context. That is struggling with particular challenges, and that's, history is so relatable. That's why you do not have to stretch your comprehension like if you're studying quantum physics. History is about human beings who you can relate to because you're a human being in these different exciting contexts, and holding these documents, exploring their stories is probably one of the most human things you can do at a very basic level.
So in terms of context, I think that seems so on point. So when you contrast, say, the context of the painting that we saw, which we would love to hear more about, and you have two kids in a wagon, and you're contrasting it with our own time where you've got kids that are playing video games or something. I guess the question is twofold. Is one, what do we get by the juxtaposition of context? And then the other is much more just like, tell us about the painting in the foyer because it's gorgeous,
So for the first question, whether it's these two children in that photo or the mural I'll talk about in a minute, riding the wagon across the river, they're playing, they're being kids. Today in 2025, two kids playing video games. It's different, but they're playing, they're being kids. So the idea of childhood is the same, but they're in different contexts. They're finding their fun in different ways. It's still that human desire to play, to go with your friends. Let's go explore. Whether that's on a creek bed, on a horse, which sounds more fun than staring at a screen. But hey,
I'm with you on that.
It's those basic human experiences and desires. They don't change. They're not going to change.
And so what's the significance of this painting up here?
Yeah, it's one of the earliest.
It's a huge painting, trying to get it all in here.
Yeah. One of the earliest acquisitions we had here at the archive was small photographic plate about the size of a playing card, dated 1909. And it was a photograph of these children crossing the Mayak Creek, which is just southeast of West Plains. So when we neared our grand opening, we were thinking we wanted to commission a mural. And we kept coming back to that small photographic plate and said, we want this. This is going to be the symbol of the Ozarks Heritage Research Center. Commissioned Farley Lewis, and he painted this beautiful and massive interpretation of that photographic glass negative.
Very nice.
And you can easily relate to it.
And about the painting itself, that is a beautiful piece. I would think anyone would want to come to the research center, if for nothing else, just to see that gorgeous painting.
Yeah, that's the first thing that greets you as you walk through the door, and it is fabulous. And you mentioned it was commissioned as well, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so give me a minute or two, because I've been waiting for this. This is what got me excited about the OHRC and really helped me frame the importance of our mission, the importance of history. So one of the first things delivered to my office, one of the first materials donated before the OHRC really got off the ground was a little photographic plate, a photographic glass negative, and it was colorized. It was about the size of a playing card, and it had this picture of these two kids in a wagon being pulled by a horse across a creek. And on the back of this photo, it just said, "Crossing the Mayak," with the date, 1909. Okay, I'm looking at this. Well, this is interesting. It's beautiful, but I don't know anything about it. So I started digging in the OHRC materials. The same person that donated this photographic plate donated other materials. So I started looking at this, and I come across a guy named Colonel J. Torrey, who lived in this area. So he was a veteran of the Spanish-American War. Here in Howell County and surrounding counties, he was very ambitious, like a land developer guy. To give you a sense of how ambitious he was, he attempted, I think this was in the 1870s, 1880s, he attempted to get the capital of Missouri moved from Jefferson City to West Plains.
Oh, that is ambitious.
Nice.
So anyway, this guy, Colonel Torrey, with his ambition, right along Mayak Creek, which is where this photograph is based, just southeast of West Plains, he said, I'm gonna be a land developer. I'm gonna create a town from nothing. It's gonna be called Fruitville, and I'm gonna create this, what he called a protected homes park. I'm gonna interview people, make sure only upstanding citizens live here. We're gonna have cooperative farming. We're gonna grow grapes, because the fruit industry was real big in Howell County at this time. We're gonna create this little slice of heaven. And I came across all these promotional pamphlets Torrey used the guy was trying to flip land, right? Get people to buy plots of land. He even went to Springfield at this big land conference and was selling the Ozarks in Howell County big time. So these pamphlets are so amazing. And I'm looking at them, and there's pictures in them of all these kids playing on rope swings, running through fields, smiling people with their little dog. And so I concluded, reasonably I think, these two kids in the photographic plate, there's nothing else in that area around the Mayak Creek except Fruitville, which thrived 1908, 1909 to about 1919. Okay? So I think it's reasonable that these were kids that were the children of these Fruitville settlers, because he did sell several of these plots. There were people living there. There was this neighborhood. So I think those kids lived in Fruitville, in this protected homes park. Okay, so that's part one of this story, right? So we've got this photographic plate. There's no information, but using history, using some research, some materials in the OHRC, I've created a plausible, defensible story, a narrative behind this, with evidence, right, with historical evidence. So when the OHRC, we were getting ready for our grand opening, we said, okay, we have this donor that's going to give us a lot of money to produce a mural for our grand opening. Okay, what do we want to put on this mural? Our whole advisory board said, it's got to be this photograph of these kids crossing the Mayan. It's beautiful. So we commissioned Farley Lewis, who's a Springfield-based landscape painter, He painted this massive mural. Come to the OHRC and see it. It's huge, but it is his interpretation, and I think it's pretty close to what you see in the photograph of these two kids crossing the Maya. And so this small photographic plate, it became the symbol of the OHRC. I think it embodies our mission, right? The preservation of Ozarks heritage, the ability to tell stories from these historical materials, and it's kind of our symbol now.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful painting. What a great story behind it as well.
Yeah.
Hey, Curtis, I'm excited we have a new sponsor.
And it's our favorite Ozarks legend, Bigfoot.
In fact, if you remember, episode 31 was about Bigfoot. We talked with Vincent Anderson.
Yeah, but you know who really likes Bigfoot? That's my boys. They are crazy about Bigfoot.
Crazy about Bigfoot? Oh, that must be because you're referring to the Bigfoot Fun Park on West 76th Country Boulevard in Branson, Missouri. Because if your kids love fun, they will love Bigfoot in Branson.
I mean, they've got a terrific mini golf course. In fact, they were named Branson's best mini golf and the top mini golf in all of Missouri, and 3 escape rooms to boot.
Not to mention a full arcade. Their souped-up version of Space Invaders takes me back to the glory days.
That's right. So you're saying that grandparents love Bigfoot too?
Well, I'm a grandparent to be, but, who doesn't love a good video game?
You know what also excites me?
What's that?
They've tied the whole experience together with good old-fashioned Ozark storytelling.
Which is what we do here on the Chronicles. We use technology to preserve the stories, songs, and people of the Ozarks, well, just like Vance Randolph did 100 years ago. So it's no surprise that the Bigfoot Fun Park would use that same kind of technology.
So when you're in Branson, take the kids to meet their favorite legend, Bigfoot, at the Bigfoot Fun Park. And for more information, call 1-800-562-2416 or go to bigfootfunpark.com. Your family will have a great time with Bigfoot, and you'll have a great story to tell when you get home.
Till you tell that story, you were talking about the children at play, right, regardless of context. And one of the things of value is just the pleasure of you're doing your research, creating a plausible narrative around a painting that, Curtis, it's hard to articulate, isn't it? But somehow just the excitement involved in bringing those things together is just satisfying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's you get to play detective.
Yes,
Yeah, which is so much fun, and that's one thing that we haven't brought up yet is just the entertaining part of it, the stories. And also there's stories and entertaining stories a lot of times about when you're talking about history. It's the overlooked groups that you don't find in the textbooks or the novels or the historic books and documentation. This is everyday life.
Yes.
It's not a big spectacular event or a big spectacular personality. It's everyday life in the Ozarks, and if you want to know what it was like, you can learn about it here and what it was like 100 years ago. And I think that's really neat. Is just the entertainment and enjoyment value of it. So.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. I'm glad you mentioned that, Curtis, that right in the textbooks it's about the great man theory of history, presidents and generals and these big national events, but you're right, the only place that you could really explore ordinary life, people like me and you, as at an archive like this or any other archive that has specific material about ordinary everyday people.
Well, I think you're right, and it really makes such a strong case for regionalism. And as things, it's just what you said before, Jason, as things become more globalized, more abstracted, taking us out of our lived experience, when one goes deep where you're planted, right, in your home, then all of those things have so much more meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a push against homogenization,
It is. It's a push against becoming an abstraction yourself, right? So we're not just another number out there. So it makes the work that you're doing here, I've so enjoyed our conversation, but it's becoming clearer that the work that you're doing here is about the humanities, is about being more thoroughly human.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I'm going to make you two guys honorary historians. 'Cause you guys get it. You get it.
Well,
Well, you've led us there. I think that's the beautiful thing about a conversation.
and that choice of the mural and the story behind it in your research, it also exposes the the unique regionalism, I guess. When we're talking about the Ozarks, Hayden and I have already covered a couple of times this this search for a utopian life in the Ozarks, and whether it be kind of marginalized groups, whether they be religious or whatever, or intentional communities and communes,
Yes.
or land developers that want to create another kind of utopia. So, I mean, it's maybe not uniquely Ozarks, but, when you combine it with our beautiful environment and terrain that is somewhat unique, it tells its own Ozark story too. So that's pretty cool.
So I want to bring up one more thing about Colonel Torrey and Fruitville and this land development. He precisely, so in these pamphlets, he's trying to conjure up interest and get people to buy land plots and move to Fruitville. The way he describes the Ozarks is utopian. He said you can, instead of living in these dirty cities, you can come breathe clean air. You can be woken up by birdsong, just like our ancestors did thousands of years ago. He said the Ozarks are a heaven on earth, like it's going to rejuvenate you, it's going to purify you. So there's that utopian angle that he's a good salesman, right?
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that theme continues to this day.
Yes,
I mean,
it does.
The 1960s and 70s,
Yeah.
that same type of presentation was just altered a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of escaping the Industrial Revolution, it's escaping the monotony of your careers and retiring to utopian Ozarks.
The idea is the same in general, but the details might differ. But
I think that the myth of self-sufficiency in terms of settling the Ozarks is one of the dominant myths, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we've got game, we've got water, you can carve out a little garden. It's the idea that you can be completely self-sufficient, of course, until you have to go get some coffee, right? But I think that's part of the problem, that the moment that you're thrown back into the network, it immediately gets more complicated.
Okay. So Jason, so bring this back around to the center. Let's talk about the key personnel, I guess you might say, that help bring this together, and also things like this amazing recording room.
Yeah,
Wouldn't this be great to have?
I wish we could take
of
this
our
with
own?
us. Oh yeah,
I
just
do
put it
too.
on top of the car.
it's open to the public. You can use it whenever you want. You can't take it though.
Okay.
You're always welcome
Yeah,
to use it.
I'm looking at your microphones. I think they look mighty nice.
But obviously, there's financial expenditures, and there's people that help put this all together. Who are some of the key players in all of this?
Yeah, so Rebecca McKinney, who regrettably couldn't join us today, has put in tons of work. She's director of the library. When she was hired, the OHRC didn't exist. She didn't sign on to manage an archive, but she has done it. She's cataloged tons of our materials that come in, and she organizes all our monthly programming. So Rebecca, thank you. Dennis Lancaster, who was our previous chancellor, he just retired in June of 2025. He's the one that gave us the administrative support. He also, just to give you a sense of how much he cares about the OHRC, about history of the Ozarks, with his own money he purchased the James Posey Woodside Civil War era journal.
Wow.
So James Posey Woodside, Oregon County, served in the Confederate Army afterwards, got into politics, but here at the OHRC we have his original journal from 1867, his own handwriting. It is scanned, you can check it out online, but you want to hold something from 1867, it's here. And then our advisory board, so various faculty and staff have been doing the yeoman's work along with me and Rebecca. But finally, private donors. So the university, as much as they support us, I'm not complaining. Financially, they're not able to really support the OHRC, but private donors have contributed money that built this beautiful recording studio, that have helped us get that mural, and just been very, very generous. So those have been the main players.
Well, you're right. I mean, this studio is such an asset, and we're certainly privileged to be able to use it. Thank you so much. What other kinds of technology might be available to people coming to the research center looking for information?
Sure, if you're a researcher or a student or just someone interested in a slice of regional history, in addition to this recording studio, which is open to the public for oral interviews or to record your own podcast, another very generous donor enabled us to buy an extremely high-end scanner. So if you're just here on a research trip for 1 or 2 days and you don't have time to look through a bunch of stuff, you can scan it in the most beautiful, clear, and crisp PDFs. We've got a computer room through which you can access all our online materials. But yeah, we'd love to have you, and of course you can come in and rifle through whatever you want. Just be gentle.
And to find you online, what's your address?
So we are part of the Missouri State University West Plains website. So you can go to wp.missouristate.edu, search Ozarks Heritage, any of the words in our name in the search bar of the MSU West Plains website. We've got, and our little page will come up. You can look at our upcoming programming schedule. You can find links to historical material that's been scanned. Any information you need about the OHRC, it's right there for you.
Great.
And also for folks, including myself, that are very interested in these programs, these monthly programs, you have a social media presence where people can stay tuned and see what's upcoming.
Yeah, excellent. So all our upcoming programs are always pushed out via our social media, mainly Facebook. So that's another good way to follow us.
So one other thing, we know about your technology, the facility where it's at, events and so forth. Just for a moment, and I know you guys are relatively new. You said 2023 is when you opened, but already, what are some of the collections that are in the archive right now? Just what they are, and just a brief description, so that we know what you guys have going, right now. I'm sure there's way too much to mention completely, but just a few examples.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you about some of my favorite
collections. Yeah.
So Tony Aid, he's a local businessman, a historian in his own right. His parents were here, but he amassed a collection of thousands of historical postcards from West Plains, Howe County, and the surrounding counties. So we have 1,500 historical postcards that anyone can look at. And man, talk about, you sit down looking at these, time will go by fast. That's what happened. I looked at them, I got sucked in, I looked at the clock, I've been there 2 hours, and it just felt like that. So we've got these great postcard collections, all local and regional. Another one of my favorite is our Irene Kimberlin manuscript collection. So Irene Kimberlin, she is the one who acquired that photographic plate crossing the Maya. She loved history. She grew up in this region, but she's donated a bunch of other photographic glass negatives. She also collected and donated all the material on Colonel Torrey, from which I learned about the background and context of the photo. So I love looking at stuff like that. But if you like visual stuff, come check out these postcards. If you want some manuscript collections, we have several of those as well.
And glass negatives.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess that would be a whole other technology in trying to reproduce or digitize those. I mean, that's what's the 1800s, right? For glass negatives?
Yeah, around the turn of the century.
Wow, very interesting. Sounds like some fascinating collections for sure.
Absolutely, and such a welcoming place, to house them.
Yeah, one quick question I had. So tying directly to West, or at least regional history, you mentioned the Tony Aid collection. Wasn't there a famous Aid hardware building or something here on the square that has some long history in the area?
You know your West Plains history, don't you, Curtis?
Maybe a little.
You're exactly right. So this is the same Tony Aid who himself and his father owned Aid Hardware that had been on the square, since the turn of the century. Tony Aid recently retired, and just last year, Aid Hardware ceased to exist after over a century.
Wow.
So it's a vacant building now. A big loss for the square, big loss for West Plains, seeing Aid Hardware go.
Well, it's a very beautiful historic building.
It is.
And the quintessential Ozarks Courthouse Square.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a beautiful place. I sure hope it has a history of preservation in some form, because it is a neat building with awesome history. So thanks for confirming my assumption. But
And Jason, tell us, what's the best way that people can help support the center?
So there's, I always say this, there's three good ways to support what we do and to also engage with your local and regional history. So the first is come explore our collections. I mean, if nothing else, look at the Tony Aid postcard collection. I mean, that is entertaining. Even if you're not into history, you'll love that. Come and see what we've got. Second, if you come across family records, an old diary, if a family member passes away and you're cleaning out their attic and you find historical materials, don't throw that away. Please don't. Come let us bring it to us, or we can come look at it wherever it is and determine if it fits our collection criteria. But we want to preserve history. We want to make sure it's there for future generations. And the third way, come to our monthly programming. Maybe you don't know that you like history yet, and you need to be exposed to some of these really exciting programs we have every single month. And we've got 2026 planned out every month. We've got a new speaker all focused on the Ozarks. So any one of those three ways are good ways to engage with what we do here.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing the center with us, and just all the best to you and to the work you do here, Jason. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Curtis and Hayden. I really appreciate y'all coming to visit and reaching out. I enjoyed talking with y'all.
yeah, I did too. And Jason, I would just want to say one more time, I'm very thankful. I can't express my gratitude enough for what y'all are doing here. It's right in line with the mission of this podcast and other things that Hayden and I are involved in. So thank you for preserving the Ozarks, you and your team, and the West Plains community.
Yeah.
And we invite all our listeners to come out here to the Ozarks Heritage Research Center and see this wonderful place. But Hayden, I guess that's it for this episode. I want to thank Dr. Jason McCollom again for hosting us today, and we'll see you next time on the Ozarkian Folk Chronicles, your place for all things Ozarkian, the profane, the profound, the preposterous, and the impressive. And we'll see you next time.
Have a great day.
This episode was brought to you by the Bigfoot Fun Park in Branson, Missouri on West 76 Country Boulevard. They've got mini golf. They've got a full-on arcade. They got 3 escape rooms, and it's all yours when you come to Branson. Just go to bigfootfunpark.com or call 1-800-562-2416. That number again, 1-800-562-2416. And when you go, tell them the Chronicles sent you.
Well, the hills ain't high, but the valleys are deep. At the bottom of the bluff there flows a crystal creek. On the other side is the place where we reside, here at home with our Ozarks family. Every night in June, by the light of the rising moon, the old folks tell stories about what used to be. Then we play guitars out beneath the sun.